Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to panel People Served, organized by Regional School of Public Administration, UNDP, and Open Government Partnership, and our colleagues from Public Administration of North Macedonia. I will take a role of a moderator today because our colleague, Ms. Jelena Miletic, unfortunately couldn't moderate due to private issue. My name is Vladimir Nikolic. I am Program Assistant in Regional School of Public Administration in charge of central government and better regulation. The People Served panel tends to highlight important questions on a regional scale relevant to the e-government and digitalization of public administration. The purpose is to obtain an understanding of the state of play of service delivery in the Western Balkan region. After a short introduction of challenges identified, the panel discussion will be used to brainstorm ways to tackle the challenges and explore concrete experiences, solutions, and transferable best practice for different levels of public administration. The panel will showcase inspirational stories from the Western Balkans and highlight different perspectives based on the experience of stakeholders. Our panelists for today are Mr. Slaven Bukarica, Public Program Assistant from Regional School of Public Administration of charge of e-government and quality management, Ms. Sandra Pernar, Senior Regional Coordinator of Open Government Partnership for Europe, Ms. Gordana Gapik-Dimitrovska, State Advisor, Advisor for Administration and OGP Coordinator of North Macedonia, and Mr. Slobodan Markovic from UNDP Office of Serbia. The intention of the panel is to give a showcase example from global, regional, national, and local perspective, taking into account the perspectives of different stakeholders. On a purpose is the first highlight of the session, the regional comparative study on service delivery in the Western Balkans. We'll open the discussion introducing the biggest challenges, milestones, island of excellence in the subject area. In addition, the efforts to standardize a life cycle of service delivery from need assessment. Best case example deriving from North Macedonia in the context of the digital transformation of public administration will enable us to zoom into the national context, as well as e-service good case examples generated by the UNDP Office of Serbia. Finally, the inevitable connection between public administration reforms and collaborating co-creation and co-production of public service with different stakeholders will be explained by tackling the issue of OGP as a global initiative. Now we will start with Mr. Slaven Bukarica from RESPA. The first question I will ask to ask him is what are the main obstacles in the digital transformation on public administration?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone. Do you hear me? Okay. Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here on behalf of Regional School of Public Administration. This is a very important topic, and in the light of this big event, let me first say that RESPA contributed region-wise by conducting comparative study on service delivery. Through this process, we were challenged by significant novelties, demands, and expectations in the area of public service delivery in the Western Balkan region, but also globally. Digital transformation has a huge impact on organizational structure, dynamics, importance, and work of the public administration on the whole. To some extent, the primal objective of our study was to give an overview of insights of public service delivery in the Western Balkan region, but also to formulate strategic and operational recommendations. Of course, by saying this, we were also focusing on bottlenecks and providing intersectoral and supersectoral solution. In that context, Western Balkan 6 were covered by this study. Our study highlighted the importance of online public service delivery, which is a comprehensive reform that included several important interventions on legal, policy, institutional and operational level. This means that they do possess certain level of obstacles. The majority of Western Balkans 6 have in place strategic framework and reasonable regulatory environment. However, the majority of them are still struggling in the area of policy implementation, connection and monitoring. At the end of my answer, I would also add that there is no standardized approach in evaluating the cost of services, which is and RESPA is definitely interested jointly with its partners to consider launching the initiative where this very important financial aspect will probably be taken as a topic for future discussion and analysis in this area.
Thank you, Slaven, for your detailed answer. And hereafter, my second question for you is, what are the most impressive islands of excellence in subject of the Western Balkan region?
Yes, so this study identified a lot of these islands of excellence, which were somehow hidden in the region, and we definitely wanted to benchmark and bench learn from each other, but also to take into consideration what is happening on the global level. One of those case examples is integrated service centers managed by ADISA. This is agency for delivery of integrated services in Albania. They provide front office services for the total number of 9 institutions by providing fast and effective services to its client. Also, this is one of the and customers, of course, citizens and businesses. This is also one of the first institutions in the region who introduced innovation lab for bringing innovative solutions into the public administration. Equally important is the second case example, which comes from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and it is in the area of e-procurement. It is implemented by the Agency for Public Procurement with the aim to ensure user-friendly, effective, cost-effective national public procurement portal. In Montenegro, we have identified electronic documentation management system, so-called EDMS. The government of Montenegro recognized it is implemented in the Ministry of Public Administration, and government recognized the importance of electronic data and documentation exchange with the aim to provide services to all people who are using these services, which are businesses, people, citizens and so on. We have heard a lot of case examples from Serbia from the previous speaker. I would also like to add just one more example, and it is interactive accessibility map which was created by the Accessibility Association in cooperation with Ombudsman. And this accessibility map was designed for people with disabilities, giving them the information which public institutions in Serbia are available for them. Of course, as I said, study gave a lot of examples. If you want to find out more, please go to our web page, respavet.eu, and go to the publication section, and there you will find the findings of our study. Thank you.
Thank you again, Slaven. Maybe we can go now from the regional to the national level. And our second panelist for today, Ms. Gordana Gapik-Dimitrovska, from Ministry of Information, Society and Public Administration of North Macedonia. I will start with the first question addressed to you, Gordana. How global initiatives are bringing an added value to the national context of public administration reform, and can you identify the common element for them?
Thank you. Thank you for opportunity. It's a great pleasure to be as a government representative on the panel where we have a discussion with representatives from international organizations. It's a great pleasure to share how Republic of North Macedonia can and at the same time uses international initiatives in domestic stories, and also how we connect the international initiatives with other international initiatives to increase the quality of the life of our citizens. Going back in 2011, Republic of North Macedonia joined the OGP as a one voluntary initiative in terms that we committed as a government that we will focus on increasing the transparency, accountability of the government, introducing the open data, access to justice, and etc. This process taught us that we as a government, we as an administration, we can learn not only inside, but we can be more open to learn from outside. Going back a couple of years ago, we thought that we can build mutual trust if we can listen each other. When I talk listen each other, I think that the administration, the politicians, and also the civil society representative can join on one table and to discuss important issues and challenges for the society. In 2016, we have a really challenging spring in our country, where we tackle one important issue: how we can improve our society, how we can speak loudly, to be hear the voice of the citizens, to be hear the voice of the needs of our citizens. Therefore, we understood that through one initiative, we can skip the politicians and to focus on administration, the professional public administration, to talk with civil society representatives and with common sense to develop commitments which will be firstly developed together or co-created, and then to be implemented by the government. And that was really challenging task, and we are pretty much proud of it, since we learned that we do not have only reformers outside of the government, but we also have reformers within the government. Another added value of this global initiative is SDGs. Previously, we had opportunity to listen Sofia. She's in favor in Sustainable Development Goals. Me either. Since in 2016, we, as a government, and me personally, we were pretty much dedicated to mainstream the SDGs within the OGP action plan. So we find out that two global initiatives can be combined and to increase the awareness of the citizens, but also to see how those two agendas can improve the commitments of the government and how to be implemented in a better way. Another example how one initiative can tackle a really important issue is open data. Previously, we had the opportunity to listen that open data is maybe the new way of transparency, new way of work. But this concept in our country was introduced back in 2013, and usually in our region we really want to regulate things. First we will introduce the law, and then we think that things should be done just by articles in the law. We figure out that the law is not enough, and the last year we changed our approach, and we thought that beside the law, we need, of course, strategy and an action plan, but also we need motivation speeches for the administration in order to understand what is the added value of this approach. Since it's not only opening the data for the businesses, it's not only in the term of increasing the transparency of the government or keeping the government accountable towards the citizens, but in our talks with the administration, we shared another angle of open data approach, in terms that if we want to have smooth path in EU integration, and if we want to be ready for a negotiation process, we need data. We need data analysis, and we need policy making process based on data. Therefore, as another flow on activities, how we are connecting the things, we thought that maybe it's good and reasonable to try one exercise to see how open data can help us to monitor SDGs, and in the same time to connect the SDG agenda, the goals of SDG, with the 35 chapters of EU agenda. So at the moment, we are trying hard to map all the data, all the methodology, all the indicators and data which is collected under the SDGs, and all those data to be publicly available for the citizens on our central portal for open data, it's data.gov.mk. So in that term, we are trying to link all those instruments in order, on one hand, to collect more data, and then to put them publicly available, to be used for the researchers, but at the same time to be used by the administration in building their positions in their future negotiation process. During all those exercises, at the moment we have a great political support. What we need great support within the administration, with skilled people, but in the same time we need great support from outside of the government to those who can in future use all those data. In coming period, we jointly are planning to have a lot of activities in term to have common understanding of added value of all those three instruments in order to have a sustainable policy on the field. Coming from administration as a professional civil servant, I would like to say that maybe we as administration, we can't do big things, but we can do small things with a great effort and with much better impact. And this was in short, but absolutely I can...
Thank you very much for your elaborate answer. Having in mind that smart governance and information society go hand in hand with the whole of government approach, what is the main achievement in North Macedonia government related to the introduction of change management in public administration and encompassing behavioral change? And maybe I think that you are the right person to ask you in which way open government partnerships support and help to public service. Just if you can connect or at the end of your first answer.
Thank you. So would you be in my heart, on my heart? So it should be red. Okay. So. OGP, yes, it can be seen as a tool, or maybe it's not magical tool, but it's a tool how to communicate the things and how to raise the issues which are not only important for the government. Yes, the government have the 40-year program, and that's all. But we need, or what is needed for our society, to have the voice from outside and to see what is important for the citizens at whole. So through OGP can be addressed a lot of things as issues. For example, in 2016, we raised the issue of climate change. In our fourth action plan 2018-2020, access to justice is one really important issue which is stressed upon. And also we have a lot of things which should be mainstream in each years, such as access to justice, access to information, open data, service delivery, and especially the transparency on the local level, which we consider that if the government put a lot of efforts on transparency on the national level, we should have similar or good examples on local level.
Thank you a lot, Gordon. Our next panelist is Mr. Slobodan Markovic from UNDP Office of Serbia, and I have two questions actually for Slobodan. The first one is UNDP in Serbia is implementing a digital transformation project. What challenges you are facing in its implementation, and maybe I can give you now the second question regarding the open data projects and your experience during the implementation.
Okay, thank you for inviting us here. I'm a technical advisor for digital governance at UNDP Serbia, and I'm leading this digital transformation project with the Office for IT and E-Government, and the Prime Minister's Office is the main counterparts here. The project is rather a large one. It's supported by around 2.5 million from the British government, and the rest, around 5.5, is contributed by the government of Serbia. Of course, the project is more than just e-government. So the first part of the project is concerned on improving the e-government system in Serbia, but there are other things inside as well, and I'm not going to spend more time today. For instance, the National Requalifications Program is also inside it, and the support to building some of the infrastructure that Mihailo mentioned previously. We started this project around, let's say, 6 or 9 months after the office was formed. And the key reason why we were actually invited as a development partner to support the government in this endeavor was that the office was actually a young institution. I mean, it had been just formed, and of course faced many challenges. The first part the first priority was to actually support the office in building their own capacities for basically planning and coordination of policy and the policy implementation, their capability to support other state institutions in introduction of e-government. Also to support them with the management of their infrastructures, which comprise which are comprised of the government network, government cloud facilities, infrastructure for exchange of data between different institutions, government portals. And finally, to actually increase the capacities of the office to build user-centered services, to actually provide for user centricity, which was a thing that we traditionally didn't have. We had focus on what the institutions need, not what the users need. So I'll now mention 5, I guess, of the most immediate challenges that we faced, and some of the ways that we countered them. The first one is actually a consequence of a very good thing, of a high level of political support. So this high level of political support for e-government in Serbia had a consequence that many people and many institutions started moving in the same direction. So this immediately created a problem that you have many players pushing often their own agendas and going their own ways. And we wanted to somehow align this with what the office does. So we didn't spend much money on that, but we spent enormous amount of time just working with other institutions such as the European Union, World Bank, different stakeholders, NGOs, and the office itself on aligning the timelines, priorities, scopes of different projects to enable this whole system and many initiatives to basically build on each other and not conflict each other. The second thing was related to the fact that there's a lot of complexity in the existing information systems and institutional arrangements. So in many areas we had to basically first map the whole situation, untangle these complexities, and see how we are going to go about them. Next, we had to focus ourselves on basically re-engineering the usual way the state institutions work and introduce automation into management of the infrastructures, because if the Office for IT and e-Government is going to support a large number of institutions in offering e-government services that have to be dependable and secure, that has to be scalable, and the number of people that they're going to be allowed to employ is limited. So automation is a major enabler there. Also, they have to have platforms for provisioning of integrated services, which also include key registries which are interconnected. So this is also one thing that we're working on building. And finally, strengthening product management capabilities. And this is, I think, the key part in making the services user-centered. Because the way the institutions traditionally function is that they basically try to digitalize their own current way of working, which leaves us with the situation where you have digitalized fragments of each service. But if you're looking at the service end to end, you have to have 5 passwords and go to 5 websites to complete one thing. So actually looking at this user journey and end-to-end services, and looking at the, for instance, government portal as a product that the user is using every day, and that needs to be managed properly, and where you have to integrate a lot of different data streams, not only how the users are using this portal, through which devices they're using it, what is the feedback that they're providing, what the industry is saying, what are the political priorities. So to integrate all these feedback from different sides and build a product management basically strategy and provide for a good user experience is a major thing that we're now working on with the Office for IT and e-Government. Now, talking about the challenges, I think that this all wouldn't be possible without really strong and clear political support for all this process, and the willingness of the Office for IT and e-Government to go in this general direction. So even though we have problems, we at least don't have the problem that the government doesn't want to support it or that doesn't want to work on this. So this is really a very important thing. And I don't know whether you wanted me to for now to say a thing about open data. We also have another project with the Serbian government going on for some time now on open data, and through this project we help the government introduce the legal framework for open data, establish a national open data portal, and most importantly convene a multi-stakeholder working group on open data, which currently gathers more than 50 institutions. Not only members of the government are there, 2/3 are government, but 1/3 of them are from other sectors, or basically data users. And the key takeaway that we have from this process is that the government institutions really need to understand that they need to immerse themselves into this. It's just not enough to just open data. The institutions have to realize that they need to reach out to the community and say, this is our data, you can help us check on the quality of data, you can help us solve some of our problems that we had with this data and make our lives better. Or you can just open the data and see what the community needs, maybe some other data sets to provide for some better solutions which are not government oriented at all. So I think that the possibility of opening data provides like an excuse for the government, so to speak, to engage with the community. And this is really a key thing that I think that the people from the government need to understand. That this is a process where they really need to engage with the users. It's not just, tick the box and open the data, because nothing will happen. So they have to, be proactive and take one step forward.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Markovic, for your very detailed answer. Ms. Sandra Perner from OGP Secretariat will answer to very, I think, important question for the global perspective. And the first one is, what are the factors for successful use of digital technology for the purpose of open government?
Thank you very much for your question. Nice to be here in Belgrade. So it was Arthur C. Clarke, the author of Odyssey 2001, Space Odyssey 2001, that said that any well-advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And that is definitely true. Technology can do magic. And we in OGP are quite aware of that. We find technology very much important for our work. And the work that we are doing is trying to make governments more open, more inclusive, and more responsive. And we are doing this with one aim, and that is because we believe that governments will be more efficient and more credible if they open up to public input and oversight. And for that, when you talk about transparency, when you talk about accountability, when you talk about the public participation, technology is really an important enabler. It is our tool to do good on these factors. But just as magic can go wrong sometimes, also the use of technology for opening up governments can go wrong sometimes. So we now have in OGP 79 countries that are our members. So 79 countries are implementing open government commitments through OGP action plans. We have over 3,000 of civil society organizations that are involved in all of that, and through all of their work we have seen also over 3,000 different commitments developed and implemented in different countries. And from there we have seen technology work, and we have seen technology failing when it comes to opening up governments. And I will explain this on examples. I will start with one of my favorite ones and a really successful example from Italy. It is their Open Coesione project. So basically what they have done in Italy is they have put online information for over 1 million of projects, and in money that was over 11 billion euros worth of projects. So all of this information was put online. These are the projects that were funded through EU funds. And of course, just like that, it could have been yet another portal, which we have seen a lot in OGP, which is really flashy, really looks nice, it has a lot of data on it, but nobody uses the data. And this is basically where we see failures. This is something that didn't happen in Italy, and it didn't happen because they realized that putting up data online is not enough. You really need to consider, why are you putting up this data online? What do you want to achieve with that? And what they wanted to achieve with this particular data was they really wanted to see whether those projects were implemented the way they were supposed to be implemented. And for that purpose, they have engaged with journalists, they have engaged with civil society, and what I found the most exciting was that they even done a spin-off project where they have engaged, and they're still doing actually this, they do this every year. They engage school students to be on-the-site auditors. So basically they train them about this data and about how to actually audit whether a certain project has been performed as it was supposed to be or not. What does it mean in practice? The best, again, is to show it an example. So in one particular case, a group of students actually found out that in their community there was supposed to be a youth center built, but nothing was happening because the project was blocked by mafia, it seems. But they didn't stop, they engaged. So they engaged with the media, they engaged with the local authorities, and they finally started the project. And so they brought additional value, they brought benefits for their community. And so this is what we want to see. This is what we are hoping to achieve, is really to have that kind of engagement of public with data. So technology itself is important. If there was no technology, that data would not be online. But it was, of course, the people that made the difference. It was those students or journalists or civil society organizations in some of the cases that made the difference. And this is what is important. So when doing civic tech projects, it's really important to think about why are we doing them, what do we want to achieve, and whether there is an actual need for them. So whether this is something that will benefit to the people, that people will actually use. And of course, today, when technology also allows us to enjoy the comfort of our home, like watching Netflix all day if you want to, and it's really harder and harder to get people to actually go out and engage, then it is even more important to think about what we are trying to achieve with some of the initiatives that we are working on. And another good example is from Ukraine, where they have done Prozoro. So Prozoro is a platform where all of the public procurement is online. So all of the contracts, everything you can find online, vendors apply online, and also you can see the selection process. All of the information is shared online. And again, this is very important because just by making this process transparent, they have already achieved a lot, because there have been savings, because for the first time now, small and medium enterprises got involved into public procurement, because before they didn't. It was always going to the same usual suspects that were in a deal with the government or whatever, but now they have really diversified the number of vendors that apply. There was a trust raised again among the business and the government and so forth. But additionally, they have a spin-off called Dozoro, where again 22 civil society organizations are monitoring the public procurement. So those things that are online and available for everybody, but they monitor, they really investigate, and when they see that there might have been some wrongdoings, they actually go to the responsible authorities. They report those wrongdoings and ask for changes. So this is what we really should aim for. So really, I think, to answer to your question, so the main factors are really connecting transparency with public participation. Often, a lot of civic tech projects just focus on transparency, but they forget about involving people. And this is what is important, because every person can be a change agent. We just need to find a way how to engage them. So really to think about what are the things that are concerning people, whether it is corruption, whether it is healthcare, whether it is having playgrounds in their neighborhood, whatever. So basically trying to find out the way how to respond to their needs.
Thank you, Ms. Berner, and thank you for your answer and very good examples. And I think that we have time for one more question. For you, how can digital technologies improve public service delivery?
They can do that in two ways. I would say first, for sure, technology can help in making public service delivery more easier to get, more user-friendly. Secondly, technology can also help by allowing citizens to give their feedback on the services that they receive, and through that they can actually affect improvements for certain services. And from the point of OGP, we really do believe that it is important to secure this two-way feedback, so that there is possibility for citizens to say whether they are satisfied or not with a certain service, to explain their reasons why not if they're not. And then there has to be a feedback from the government that takes into consideration what they got from the citizens, and then they make the improvements on the public service delivery. I will give you one example, and it is an example from Nigeria, from Kaduna State. There they had a really big problems with infrastructure projects. So the government was basically admitting that they are failing. So they were overspending and under-delivering on the infrastructure projects, and it was really obvious. When it comes to schools, to hospitals, to roads, everything was going really well, really bad. And so what the government decided first was to create a smartphone app for civil servants to be basically those who will report on infrastructure projects with GPS coordinates, like taking a photo and sending it, so that they can see if, you know, a road was done only by half and not completely, or whether there were some other problems when it comes to infrastructure projects. But of course they realized that they don't have enough civil servants to cover all of the projects around the country, and so they decided to actually give this opportunity to citizens. And so this app that's called Eyes and Ears is now basically used by every citizen, where they can easily report to any problem that they notice. And basically then the government responds immediately, and they go and correct the stuff that is being done. I have to say that I'm very happy because as my role in OGP is to provide support, among others, also to all of the Western Balkan countries. I was very happy last year when I received the action plan from Montenegro, because they have included a similar commitment. So I'm hoping that next year, when we meet again, or whenever, there will be also opportunity for citizens in Montenegro to actually report on the problems, and then get the feedback in the terms that it is solved as soon as possible.
We hope so. Thanks again, and thank you all for your very great presentations. And please allow me to make a short summary of this panel. The specific elements related to the subject area were elaborated by Mr. Bukarica, followed by Ms. Gordana Gapik-Dimitrovska, elaborated on evidence-based policy making and added value to public administration reform in North Macedonia and influence of global initiative at national level. Mr. Slobodan Markovic from UNDP present how new IT technologies are being utilized in Serbia through pilot initiatives, as well as reflect on open data initiatives. Ms. Sandra Pernar gave a genuine perspective of additional value that OGP brings to the good governance, anti-corruption as well, and what are the factors of success of such a process. I would like to thank you to all panelists and all participants and the guests. I hope that you heard a lot important things for your future work, and I wish you a pleasant and fruitful rest of the summit.